Suddenly, when everybody started showing losses in 2007, they said, oh, well, this isn't good, but I'm sure this will pass. And then it kept happening, and then going into 2008, things kept getting worse. And because banks didn't have that much collateral to begin with, they ran out. And then, as a result, AIG's having to pay all these people for their losses, and they lost a ton of money. And that entire system of trying to insure each other with derivatives completely failed and completely fell through. And the result was lots of...
Why didn't AIG, an insurance company, have money set aside for these credit default swaps?
They don't legally have to.
Yeah, I mean, that's the law. In the United States, it was thought that was a good idea in industry.
Investment insurance companies, unlike every
and the
other
government
insurance
ate it up.
company.
That's the thing, is there were so many economists who worked in universities who were saying this is a really bad idea. Joseph Stiglitz, Paul Volcker, lots of people said this is terrible ideas. But the people, the financial industry, they said, oh, well, this is a good idea. And for some reason we said, oh, well, let's listen to them. It's not like they have a conflict of interest here.
Wall Street government. Well,
here's the, I mean, that's the problem. The regulators, everyone from the regulators to everyone in the administration,
they come from the same pool of people, the same schools, the same companies, and they look out for each other. I mean,
yeah, and I mean, even just look at, like, here's the revolving door between Washington and Wall Street is just completely insane. I mean, I don't even know how. I couldn't even name all the people. I mean, what do you got? Hank Paulson from Goldman Sachs. Who else is from Goldman Sachs? Robert Rubin.
Timothy Geithner.
No, Geithner's not from Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, he is.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he is.
He was New York
Federalist Fed. He was head of the Fed.
But before that, he was at Goldman Sachs.
No, he wasn't. That was a myth.
He worked there. He worked there. He wasn't like I think.
I don't think he did. I think that was a myth, guys.
Look it up.
I think I saw him in Slumdog Millionaire getting the tea.
And I mean, you got, and look, who's the new Treasury Secretary? Who do we got? We got Jack Lew.
I love that guy.
Really?
Yeah.
He says that he does not think we should reinstitute Glass-Steagall.
Of course he's going to say that. He's telling us what to be Treasury Secretary.
Why do you agree with that?
Actually, he was key in repealing. He was Clinton's.
Good. I like Jack Lew.
He was Clinton's director of Office of Management and Budget, or whatever it's called.
Yeah. When the budget was balanced.
Yeah, and he also was key in repealing Glass-Steagall, which also gave us the biggest financial crisis we've had.
No, it didn't. Oh, please.
Partially.
No,
partially.
You know. Hold on, but what did Glass-Steagall do? Think about it.
Glass-Steagall let banks. There's supposed to be a wall between insurance companies, commercial banks, and investment banks.
And
so
how many countries does that division exist in? 0. We were the only country that had that division. No one else in the world did that.
Well, we also have the world's
largest economy.
Yeah,
that doesn't matter.
Who else has Wall Street? I mean,
Glass-Steagall also kept us safe for 40 years.
We have the financial industry of the world. No other else has a Wall Street.
Germany literally never had that regulation. Germany has a huge financial sector, and actually during this last crisis, they were relatively fine.
That's fine. But Wall Street needs to be reined in. We need some sort of a structure. I mean, we need something as a general public to wrap our heads around instead of 2,300 pages of Dodd-Frank.
And I mean, like Glass-Steagall, it might not have been necessary to stop the crisis if other regulations were put in place and actually enforced. Strictly enforced. I mean, I'm sure other countries have a little bit more enforcement. I know London doesn't, but they were, after the crisis, they're talking about it. Who knows if it'll happen, because pretty much every government's bought off by the same corporations. But you know, they're talking about more financial regulation, which the reason London is very popular for like AIGFP and Barclays and a bunch of other criminal organizations. We didn't even get into Barclays. This is the biggest financial crime in the history of mankind.
Manipulation of LIBOR?
Scott, before you go into that, I want to let you know, I agree with you on what you just said, that it would have been good, because what the repeal of Glass-Steagall did allow for is that if you were it allowed for deposits to be loaned out in other ways, but it also allowed for the holdings to be lowered to a lower percentage than 10% if you wanted to do that.
So they were over-leveraged? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a part of what allowed the over-leveraging, so it should have been replaced. So I completely agree with that. But the thing is what that means is that banks should have to hold a higher percentage of their overall assets in their vault instead of loaning it out. And that's what we just did. as a part of Dodd-Frank, and I think that's a lot better than reintroducing Glass-Steagall.
Well, theoretically, like, who knows how it'll actually be enforced? I mean, that's the problem with any law when you have totally corrupt regulators.
Yeah.
I mean, look at anyone. Most of the regulators come from Wall Street. I mean, they put these people in place. It's basically the people who can't make big money on Wall Street, the people who aren't smart enough, who aren't skilled enough to go to Goldman Sachs and makes, you know, a couple $1 million. They send those people.
Yeah.
I mean, Goldman Sachs and these big companies, they run circles around regulators.
Yeah, they send people to these regulatory commissions, and once they're done regulating, they're rewarded with big price jobs at the same companies they came from.
Yeah,
You know,
all right,
when-
I want to.
When I think of these leaders like Sheila Bair and Gary Gensler and Ben Bernanke,
You have a few.
Gary Gensler, another Goldman Sachs, yeah.
yeah, but he's been someone who's been given lots of accolades for going after the financial companies
No, I
and
do
being
like
a
Gary
total
Gensler.
bulldog. No,
No, I like
he's
Gary
been
Gensler.
great.
I don't know.
And he is
What's
from
he
the
really
financial
done, though?
industry, so I just
haven't
don't
heard anything good about
I think
him.
what you're saying is generally a problem, but I just don't think it's as controlling and deep as you say.
Really?
You're very optimistic. You know, you like to think of the bright side of everything, though. But
No, I'm just thinking about the people who are leading
real.
agencies right now, the financial agencies that we're criticizing.
There are some awesome, dedicated, intelligent
I want to know
public servants.
What's so great about Gary Gensler?
I just remember.
What has he done?
Honestly, I remember just people talking highly of him and then him
Yeah, I've
sticking
heard
his
that
neck
too,
out.
but-
Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but I know he does stand up for the public interest sometimes, at least sometimes,
he
right?
scares the banks. He's the guy that gives people nightmares at nights because he's been going after them so
all
much.
his old co-employees at Goldman
I thought that
Sachs,
was-
they see Gary Gensler under their bed at night. Get out here,
He's
Joey.
also got some hot daughters. I just want to point that out. Because I was reading an article about him. It had a picture of him in his kitchen with like his 20-something-year-old daughters, and I was like, wow.
According to Wikipedia, I think I saw Anna, Lee, and Isabel, so go ahead and fantasize.
Hey, no, hold on. Let me tell you something. You want to talk about Gary Gensler? All right, look at the Wikipedia page right now. According to Bernie Sanders, he worked with Senator Phil Gramm and Alan Greenspan to exempt credit default swaps from regulation, which led to the collapse of AIG and biggest taxpayer bailout in the U.S. Everything we just talked about.
Yeah, he said that was a complete mistake, but I'm not talking about him in the 90s.
All these people made huge mistakes in the financial industry in the late 90s, early 2000s. Let's have them regulate this industry now. Now that they've all learned their lesson.
At least this
Give me
is
a
one
break,
guy that
Joey. Give me a
I'm
break, man.
I'm talking about right now in a job that he's doing right now. He's doing a really good job.
At least he admitted it's a mistake, right? When's our congressman gonna?
Nobody's. Yeah.
When's our congressman gonna say, "Oops, I shouldn't have voted for that bill"?
Look, this dude couldn't even have anything to do with the regulation of MF Global and the investigation after a crash because he has long-standing ties to John Corzine. I mean, I don't see what you guys can keep saying Gary Gensler did all this amazing regulatory stuff, but I haven't heard any of that.
I'm trying to remember a couple of the people that he went after.
Gary
Let's do
Gensler.
a show on Gary Gensler.
Half the time on his daughters.
Yeah, thank you. This is going to be good.
All right. Since we were just talking about Phil Gramm and we've talked about the repeal of Glass-Steagall, I want to take this to our second installment of Profiles in Plutocracy. I'm going to talk about a couple today, actually. We're going to talk about Phil and Wendy Graham. That's right. So Phil
Graham Leach Bliley.
Oh yeah, someone recognizes the name. Well, all right. So Philly was he's been in Congress for a while. He started out as a Democrat, switched in I think '83 to a Republican, and he was most recently a Texas senator, and for most of the 2000s, I think. So yeah, he was one of the sponsors of the Graham Leach Bliley Act. And the the Commodity Futures Modernization Act of 2000. So Graham Leach Bliley was the act that repealed Glass-Steagall. Commodity Futures Modernization Act of 2000 basically they basically put derivatives outside of regulation. So
and credit default swaps.
And of course, nobly those are derivatives, but they snuck it into an appropriations bill. So
So yeah, they snuck it into the budget.
And it also contained
Okay.
the Enron loophole, which exempted some over-the-counter energy trades and different commodities from. But also at the same time as this was going through, his wife Wendy, who was George H.W. Bush's chair of the CFTC, she actually days before leaving office in 1993, she gave a midnight order for Enron to trade these derivatives that they self-designed derivatives outside of any regulation, outside of CFTC supervision.
Okay, so you say she called the board of AIG up and
No, she was the head of CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. So she's the head of like one of the big regulatory agencies, and she basically said that we can't regulate these derivatives you're making. And this was just a couple weeks.
So she gave them the heads up. Basically,
this was just she exempted them. I mean, she did what regulators do. They exempt banks. This is what financial regulators do. They give exemptions. This is what happened before Graham Leach Bliley was
cut through the red tape.
Exactly. This is before Glass-Steagall was repealed. Citigroup already merged with Travelers and was it Citi and Solomon Brothers? No, it wasn't Solomon. Who was it? And some other company. They all merged, and they basically got a pass from the Fed until Congress passed the Graham Leach Bliley Act. So I mean, they were technically breaking the law, but then they got a pass from the Fed. Okay. So prior to the Graham Leach Bliley Act, which repealed Glass-Steagall, it was an insurance company, investment bank, and a commercial bank. They combined them all.
So it was a storm coming, and they were putting their raincoat on, basically.
Nah, they made the storm.
Yeah, they were ahead of it. That's what I'm saying.
They created the storm.
More like an ice cream storm, and they got a bowl ready.
She gave that Enron that exemption just days before she left office. Guess who she went to work for a couple weeks later?
Enron.
Motherfucker. Enron.
Oh man.
And then so she's on Enron's board while her husband is still in the Congress.
Oh, that is twisted.
And a couple years later when he passed the CFMA and the Enron loophole.
Hey, I want to highlight one thing, and that is Senators Harkin and Whitehouse and Representative DeFazio have a bill out that will tax financial transactions 3 pennies for every $100. Tiny amount. But the Joint Committee on Taxation estimates this could raise us $352 billion over 10 years.
I have a problem with this.
You have a problem with the financial transactions tax?
Not in theory, but I have a problem with it being, 0.03% or whatever.
Well,
it's going to get passed down to the consumer, though.
Here's my question.
At the end of the day,
the consumer or what?
It's your bank transaction. When I make a bank, they're going to charge me $3 extra.
No, not bank transactions. This is like Wall Street trading with exemptions.
I'm going to a credit union.
But it's still going to trickle down. It's going to trickle down to me somehow.
No, it's a tax on Wall Street. It's a tax on Wall Street trading. It's a tax on speculators. People who are trading all the time, it taxes them to trade all the time.
It's basically got two functions. Because remember, they're trading. There's high-speed trading. There's
exactly.
People, they're just sitting there trading all day, making trades all day. And basically, one thing it'll do...
3 cents for every $100.
That you're trading.
Which I'm saying, I'm going to say that's not enough.
Unless it's like a pension or whatever.
That's every single transaction
on Wall Street.
Just like think about it. Every time you go to the store, especially in Georgia, we don't even get exemptions for food. But Wall Street, they don't got to pay anything every time they sell anything. Every time you or me buy something, we're paying a sales tax. My problem with the 0.03% financial transaction tax is why do they get this special treatment? Why do I have to pay 6-7% on everything I buy? Wall Street pays 0.03%.
Well, we do want a market to exist. If you're taxing it that high, then it's going to be prohibited.
You could say the same thing about milk, about cars, about jewelry. Do we really want these markets to exist? Here's part
0.03% would be an amazing step forward for the government. Right now, the Obama administration is lobbying.
Anything would be a step forward.
Right now, the Obama administration is lobbying Europe to weaken down their financial transaction tax because Europe actually has a brain and realizes that the financial industry shouldn't take over a country's political system like we have in America.
All right, now I have a question because Wall Street already pays a tax on the transactions that it makes, and it's called the capital gains tax. Now, I think that the capital gains tax is too low, but what I'm curious
that's not on trades, though.
Yes, it is.
Short-term capital gains, long-term capital gains.
It's essentially on their income, though. It's just that they call it capital gains. It's income through not working.
I mean, it's not a tax on the trade itself, but if you buy something and then you sell it and you make $5, you pay a tax on that.
You pay a tax on the $5.
But if I go to work and actually do something productive, I pay taxes on that too. Probably
that's a good point.
Twice what these people do.
So why is it that the capital gains tax is lower than the tax on your income for when you're actually working for the money instead of having your money work for you?
That's my problem with the financial transaction tax.
No, but see, this is what I'm confused about. If you want to raise more tax revenue, why don't you just raise a capital gains tax? Like, what is
No,
this?
I totally agree. We should.